Mike Blair asked me about tools and tool sets. What tool sets do we need for enterprise architecture? And he commented that as a musician, I remember vividly one of my teachers saying that it's a poor artist who blames their tools. Well, if we think about how we do architecture, the actual process is what's known as the squiggle, which is a kind of wild, chaotic happening as we start doing the initial research, and it slowly settles out towards a plan, something solid and certain, and then we loop back to the beginning, which dumps us back in the chaos again. So what we need from tools for the kind of messiness and also formal rigor at the same time for any kind of architecture is a set of tools that covers the whole of the squiggle. Unfortunately, what we mostly get is tools that fit on one bit of the squiggle, and they don't connect. This is the problem. One of the other core problems is that most of these so-called enterprise architecture tools are still rigidly IT-centric to match the frameworks that are still hopelessly IT-centric for what we actually need. In fact, quite a lot of the tools that we have are just vaguely repurposed software design tools, which is completely different to the kind of things that we need, which are about how we explore, how do we play with things. And they also do, another problem that they have is that they're very good at the design end of the squiggle, but very bad at the messy end. And again, they don't connect. Also, each of the tools, or so many of the tools, run what we might call a walled garden. You can use one tool, but it won't connect with any other at all. So you have to pick a tool that will do as close as you can to your needs, but know that it won't connect anywhere. It'll cope with scale, the better ones, but it won't actually cope with everything you need. So many of them actually end up being worse than useless because they hide critical parts of the architecture that we need to work with, particularly as we go from big picture scope down to operations, and as we go from organization out towards the enterprise. So the only thing I've seen so far that gives any kind of glimmer of hope on how getting things to connect is the Archimate exchange file format. But even that is based on Archimate, which is still yet another IT-centric framework, and is still nowhere near appropriate for what we need, and again is geared towards design, not to experiment and messing around. We need something that that covers the whole toolset ecosystem, from scrawls on a whiteboard, photographs, scribbles on paper, all the way through to formally checked, even executable code. We don't have anything that covers this space yet, and there is still a very real need for it. So there's a whole market space for the first person who really understands what I've been saying on this about how to connect across the whole space with any kind of tool. The other mistake, a very, very common mistake, and I've actually been involved in a couple of these, is that someone says, let's do architecture, in which case the first thing we'll do is buy an enterprise architecture tool. Don't do this. All you will do is waste a very large amount of money on something that you'll possibly never use and maybe well never need. Always start out with understanding what your needs are first, and then look for a tool that fits. I'd also strongly recommend getting hold of Archie, which is a free download, open source, does the job well enough. It's Archimate based, but it does the job well enough to help you understand what an architecture tool can do and not do, and then help you decide if you want one of the large expensive ones, the purpose-built proprietary ones, then that'll help you decide which one will actually fit your needs, because you'll know what your needs are. So what we need are tools that cover the whole of the squiggle. A tool that is rigidly IT-centric will not help us if we're trying to, as we get to an architecture that is larger than just the IT space. We need tools that can connect across the whole of that space and connect us between all the different types of tools, including things like scrolls on a whiteboard. And it's really important not to leap in and buy the most expensive tool you can find without understanding what your needs are. That's how I describe the toolset space at the moment.